Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Vijeta, and today we shall be continuing with Philip Sidney's works. And we were discussing about this very beautiful sonnet, Astrophel and Stella, and how her hair is blonde and her forehead is made out of alabaster. Let us go on further. Now, the work that I'm going to discuss is Arcadia, which is something that has been quite the tale of the town because Sidney actually did not like his work and he kind of burnt it, as we previously discussed. And he actually asserted that he wrote it to entertain his sister Mary Herbert, the Countess of Pembroke. It is a romance in prose. It was written in 1580. The early version of Arcadia is called Old Arcadia. He himself edited it, and the new version is called New Arcadia. Later, the New Arcadia was edited by Fulke Greville, Matthew Quinn, and John Florio, and published in a bigger form to Old Arcadia in 1590. In 1593, Mary Herbert herself published an edition of Arcadia called The Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia, the one that she wrote. And this work is often called a tragic comedy in 5 acts. It contains several eclogues. Book 1 is about Basilius, Duke of Arcadia. His wife is Gynecia and two attractive daughters, Pamela and Philoclea. His daughters are stolen by undesirable suitors and are cuckolded by his wife. Samuel Richardson has adopted the name of his novel Pamela from here. It's a very important question. Apology for Poetry or the Defense of Poesy, written in 1595. It was probably written in 79 to 80, but it was published in 1595 after his death. A playwright called Stephen Gosson dedicated his attack on the English stage, The School of Abuse, to Philip Sidney in 1579. Gosson motivated Sidney, and in reply he wrote The Defense of Poesy, very important. This work of Sidney influenced P.B. Shelley's A Defense of Poetry, and it's also important. In it, Sidney writes, There is no art delivered to mankind that hath not the works of nature for his principal object. Poetry is long-lasting, begins first and lasts longest. Poetry is an art of imitation. Poetry is sparing picture, and its end is to teach and delight. Poetry flourishes in all countries and in all ages. Poetry softens the hard hearts of Turks and Tartars, sharpens the red Indian wit. With a sword thou mayst kill thy father, and with a sword thou mayst defend thy prince and country. As per Sidney, the epic is the best and most accomplished kind of poetry. So Sidney had quite positive views about poetry. Music, I say, the most divine striker of the senses. Poetry is an art of imitation, and its chief function is to teach and delight. Imitation does not mean mere copying or a reproduction of facts. It means a representing or transmuting of the real and actual, and sometimes creating something entirely new. Sidney declares poet as lifted up with the vigor of his own invention, doth grow in effect another nature, in making things either better than nature bring it forth, or quite a new form, such as never were in nature, as the heroes, demigods, cyclopes, chimeras, furies, and such like. So Sidney is of the view that nature provides us with some things, and sometimes poets make it more better, exaggerated, to be clearly honest, and it adds a charm and beauty. Sidney describes 3 types of poetry, very important: religious poetry, philosophical poetry, and poetry as an imaginative treatment of art and nature. He called special attention to the third class of poets. The third kind of poetry was further subdivided into various species: heroic, lyric, tragic, comic, satiric, iambic, elegiac, pastoral, and others. He gave superiority to poetry than philosophy and history. He thought that, poetry is the mother of everything. Sidney employed 4 replies to the objections to poetry. It is the mother of lies. It is the nurse of abuse, infecting us with many pestilent desires. And Plato had even banished poets from his ideal republic. And there may be many more other than more fruitful knowledges. A man might better spend his time in them. Now, these four charges were leveled by Stephen Gosson in his School of Abuse. Sidney proved all these charges against poetry as false and baseless. The poets were the ancient treasurers of the Grecian divinity. That was his view. They were the first bringers of all civility. He said a poet can immortalize people in his verses. The only tragedy he praised is Gorboduc, and very important. And Sidney says that rhyme is not the essence of poetry, but it is desirable to it. So yeah, these were the contributions of Sidney, and I hoped you liked it. Now we come to Francis Bacon. His timeline is from 1561 to 1626. Look how far we have come. Francis Bacon is called the father of English essays. In France, Montaigne is called the father of essays. His collection of essays is Essays, or the correct pronunciation in French, which I clearly don't know. And it was in 1581 that it was written. Bacon's father was the Lord Keeper in the court of Elizabeth, and while going with his father in court, he was jestingly called Little Lord Keeper by Elizabeth. Very important. He was knighted in 1603. In 1607, he was appointed as Solicitor General. In 1613, he was appointed Attorney General. In 1617, he was appointed Lord Keeper, and in 1618, he became the Lord Chancellor. In 1621, he was charged with bribery in the House of Lords. Yeah. The House of Lords removed him from its membership, dismissed him from all the posts, and he was fined like £40,000 and life imprisonment. But the next day he was released. So yeah, that is something. And Alexander Pope said about him, "If paths allure thee, think how Bacon shined, the wisest, brightest, meanest of mankind." Bacon is called the father of empiricism and the father of scientific method by Voltaire. Bacon divided his works into three branches: scientific, religious, and judicial work. Bacon attacked Aristotle. He listed 27 privileged instances. His essay of Garden is considered as a personal essay. As per Bacon, the obstacles that hinder the advance of reason are called the idols. According to Bacon, the true statements that are eventually produced by considering natural phenomena is called axioms. Bacon is associated with the induction logical method, very important. Jonathan Swift parodied New Atlantis in the third book of Gulliver's Travels. So yeah, that's also important. Important works of Bacon: Advancement of Learning, 1605. In this work, Bacon tries to encourage King James I to support some immortal work that contains the philosophy of Bacon, systemizing his ideas for the reform and revival of knowledge. It is divided into two parts. Full title is Of the Proficience and Advancement of Learning, Divine and Human. It was written in the form of a letter to King James I. He divided human understanding in three parts: history, related to man's faculty of memory; poetry, related to man's faculty of imagination; philosophy, man's faculty of reason. Instauratio Magna, written in 1620. It is written in Latin, divided into 6 books. It means the Great Instauratio. Bacon planned this in imitation of the divine work, the work of the 6 days of creation as defined in the Bible, leading to the 7th day of rest or Sabbath. So yeah, he was inspired by the Bible. New Atlantis, written in 1627. This work is like Utopia, a fragmentary sketch of Baconian Utopia. He tells how, by accident, a ship's party comes to a land in which there was a great college of science, which he begins to describe. And this dream was to be partly fulfilled in the foundation of the Royal Society in 1662. So yeah, he kind of guessed what is going to happen. Or maybe he manifested, who knows. New Atlantis. And yeah, So actually, I think I repeated the slide, although there is one thing more. It is about the inhabitants of Bensalem, that means son of peace. Bensalem is described as a utopian city where inhabitants are described having a high moral character and honesty. There is a description of Solomon's house in this book. The Novum Organum, 1620. It is a Latin work in which he discussed the new logic of reasoning upon which his philosophy was founded. It is the second part of Instauratio Magna. It means new method. It is dedicated to James I. The book's divided into two parts: on the interpretation of nature and the empire of man, on the interpretation of nature or the reign of man. So, yeah, I think I will end the lecture here, and I hope you liked it. I will meet you all in the next lecture with more of Bacon's works. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and thank you.